Have you ever had the feeling that the universe whispered someone's name before they even showed up? Has it ever happened that a stranger looks at you as though they've always known you, as if they can see into your very soul, beyond the mask, beyond the body, beyond time itself? If so, you might have already experienced what Carl Jung called synchronicity, when two inner worlds meet at the exact moment they are ready to change. Today, I want to make you a promise. If you stay with me until the end of this message, you will see your deepest relationships in a new light, as mirrors of your soul, no longer as mere coincidences. You will understand why some connections feel inevitable, and why, sometimes, even the most intense love needs the silence of time to bloom. No, you're not dreaming too big. No, you're not loving the wrong way. Perhaps you are simply standing before something greater than your mind can comprehend right now. This is what Carl Jung told us. What is real will always find a way to manifest, no matter how long it takes. And maybe the love of your life, or the most important lesson you were meant to live, has already crossed your path. Or it will in time. But in order to recognize it, you need to see it with the eyes of your soul. Because when the energy of two souls aligns, no matter how many disagreements, how many distances, how much pain, life will find a way. And here begins our journey. Throughout our lives, we meet many people. Some come gently, others like a hurricane. Some touch us lightly, like the breeze of a good memory, while others penetrate us like lightning, leaving deep marks even if they stay only for a short time. But then, there are those encounters that defy all logical explanation. These are the meetings that turn you inside out. You feel as though this person didn't appear by chance, but showed up exactly when something in you was ready to be revealed. It's as if life is saying, now you're ready, and here they come. Here's where the secret lies. Carl Jung believed that there are no accidents in our psyche. He said that the collective unconscious, a field of experiences and symbols we all share, is always, silently, working to help us meet the right people, or perhaps the ones who leave, ignite the right parts of us. That inexplicable energy we feel for someone is not just desire, affinity, or need. It is the unconscious awakening. It is the soul's call to recognize in another what it has already forgotten within itself. Have you ever looked at someone and felt a strange peace or an almost painful restlessness, as if their presence activated memories you didn't even know you had? Maybe this person wasn't here to complete you, but to remind you of who you truly are. Jung spoke about archetypes, universal images that live within our subconscious: the wise one, the child, the lover, the healer, the hero. When we deeply connect with someone, these archetypes are activated. We begin to project them onto others. What we seek in ourselves explains much of the magic and also the confusion that certain relationships bring with them. You think you're falling in love with the person, but in reality, you're falling in love with the reflection of something that has been forgotten within yourself. This is both the allure and the risk, because when the energy of two souls aligns, not only does light emerge, but so too do the shadows. And then, what was once magic becomes a mirror. What was idealization turns into confrontation. Have you ever wondered why some of the deepest connections are also the most intense, the hardest to forget, or the most painful? Because they are the ones that challenge the very foundations of your soul. Imagine your soul as a field of vibrations. It sends out a signal, silent, invisible, but real. And from time to time, this signal finds another compatible field with the same frequency, the same pain, and the same longing for healing. When this happens, there is no obstacle that can prevent the meeting, even if the circumstances suggest otherwise. Whether you are in different countries, whether you have other commitments or unresolved stories, if the lesson needs to take place, life will make sure the paths cross. But here comes a question that might just blow your mind. What if the soul you felt was the love of your life only came to teach you something and then to leave? Think about it for a moment. Could you love someone deeply, even knowing that the purpose of this love was to transform you and not to stay? Jung has prepared us for this reality. He said that there are encounters that are not meant to last, but they are meant to awaken parts of us that have been asleep, to bring forth truths we couldn't face, to heal wounds that only the touch or absence of a special person could heal. Sometimes, the person who causes you the most pain is the one who has pushed you towards healing the most. Sometimes those who leave you are actually the ones who set you free. Sometimes those who couldn't stay taught you the purest love you have ever known. And when you see that, something changes inside of you. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" And you begin to ask, "What did this show me about myself?" The soul understands what the mind is still trying to figure out. This is why, even after years, there are people you just can't forget. They touch something sacred, something that doesn't fade with time. But it's also not just a regular love story. It's about a reunion, about mission, about mutual healing, about spiritual activation. And when the energy of two souls aligns on this level, the entire world around them can change. But the connection remains. You can try to forget, to replace, to rationalize, but a part of you will always know. This meeting was real. Jung believed that the deepest relationships are actually instruments of the soul, leading us to our own center. To love others deeply means to love a part of yourself that you have forgotten, to embrace it. So, why do some souls meet and then part ways? Why can some strong stories not thrive in today's time? Were we not ready for what this connection demanded of us? Or sometimes, is it simply that the reunion isn't yet meant to be? First, after each person has walked their own healing path, these questions remain in the air, and it is these questions that will lead us to the next part of this journey. But for now, I want you to remember one truth. When the energy of two souls truly aligns, no external force has the power to separate them. You may distance yourselves physically, perhaps go your separate ways for a while, but the vibration between you remains, like an invisible thread that weaves through space and time. And when the moment comes, when you are both ready, when the lesson has been learned, life will find a way. It always does. Now, let's dive into this blind spot. Why we attract exactly the people who awaken our hidden wounds the most, and what this says about our inner moment. Have you ever wondered why, despite wanting peace, you attract the opposite? Why does life insist on confronting you with people who confuse, deceive, and abandon you, even though you long for a calm, deep, and secure love? It's not because you don't deserve love, and it's not because the universe is against you. It's because inside of you, something still demands to be seen with courage. Carl Jung said that what remains unconscious will manifest in our lives as fate. And perhaps this is the most painful and liberating point of the emotional journey we experience. What draws you to others has everything to do with what you still need to heal within yourself. It seems unfair, doesn't it? You wake up every day and try to get better, even when it hurts. You believe it's worth it, but when you look back, you see a trail of broken promises, poorly explained silences, people who said they would stay and then didn't. And then the cycle begins. You blame yourself for trusting too much. You shut yourself off out of fear of more pain. Or, even worse, you start to believe that you are the problem. But what if I told you that everything is fine with you, and that what you are experiencing right now is a clear message from your subconscious, trying to guide you inward? Let's be honest, have you ever been in a relationship where, from the very beginning, everything seemed to fit perfectly? The conversations flowed, the glances were understood, you felt seen, heard, welcomed. But over the days you noticed small gestures that hurt, crossed words, unexplained absences, silence that hurt more than screams. Yet something in you couldn't pull away. It's as if there were an invisible magnet between you, a bond that couldn't be broken even in the face of pain. You knew you were hurting yourself, but you stayed. Why? Why? It felt familiar. The pain wasn't new. It was known. And your subconscious, which carries all the emotional memories of your life, was seeking the repetition of an unresolved story. Jung called this the advantage. You don't just fall in love with someone else. You fall in love with what they awaken in you. And often, this results in a wound you never knew how to heal. The absence of your father, the silence of your mother, the rejection you suffered as a teenager, the betrayal that marked your first love. All of this lives in you, even if your mind doesn't remember. And the unconscious, which forgets nothing, will try to repeat itself until you look at it, until you are healed. Think about how often you've experienced this with different people. In the same kind of relationship, there's someone who ignores you, someone who only seeks you when they need you, someone who promises you the world but can't even provide presence. It's as if the script is always the same, you just change the characters. And then you start to wonder, am I the problem? Am I only good for half-hearted relationships? But that question leads you to the wrong place. The problem isn't you. The problem is the emotional story that still controls their decisions. Do you know the feeling when you give too much and get too little in return? Or that you love more than you are loved? Jung said that this is often a sign that you are still seeking to be seen by someone from your past, using the present to try and fix what's already happened. It's as if the child that lives inside of you is saying, if I'm good enough, maybe someone will finally stay. But that child needs to understand now. You are already an adult, and you can protect yourself. You can say no. You can choose differently. It's hard to accept, but much of the pain we feel today has nothing to do with who is standing in front of us. It has to do with who was left behind. That's why you can be with someone who truly loves you and still feel at risk, or be alone and yet feel the weight of rejection. The wound is not in the present, it's in the emotional memory you carry. And until you heal that memory, you will continue to attract people who reactivate it, not as punishment, but for vibrational coherence. Maybe now you remember one of your stories, someone who promised you a future and then disappeared, someone who looked into your eyes but never really saw you, someone who seemed tailor-made for your soul, but deep down only served to show you what still needs healing. These people didn't come by chance. They were messengers from your subconscious. They came to show you where it hurts. They came to teach you how far you're willing to go for someone, even at the cost of your own self. But what if you could change this pattern? What if, instead of repeating it over and over, you began to choose? Choose yourself. Choose conscious relationships. Choose what nourishes you, not what exhausts you. This is possible, but it takes something that only a few have the courage for. Look within. Jung said that no one becomes enlightened by imagining light beings, but by making the darkness conscious. You must look at the pain, the fear, and the lesson. You must welcome your inner child, your shadow, your story. You must stop chasing someone else and begin to approach them. If this touches you, it's because you're ready. Ready to break out of the repetition cycle. Ready to live relationships that don't bleed, but heal. Ready to stop seeking love in others and start building it within yourself. But this doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. It's a dive. It's a daily choice. And for that, you need a method, a practice, a guide that turns Jung's profound wisdom into steps that fit your routine. That's why there's the ebook Jung's LUD method, 5 minutes a day for inner peace and mental clarity. This material was created to help you consciously access your inner world and support you day by day in understanding it, what vibrates within them, and transforming that into healthier decisions that align better with who they truly are. It's the first step, deep and transformative. You can find it right here in the pinned comment below this video. Because before you try to align your energy with another soul, you must first align your energy with your own essence. And that's what we will talk about next. Let's dive into this mystery and understand why the most intense emotions sometimes deceive us, and how we can learn to see others with an awakened heart and a peaceful soul. Have you ever been confused about whether you're in love with someone or simply enchanted by the idea of being loved by them? Sometimes the heart races, the body reacts, the mind fantasizes, and everything seems magical. But then, over time, the magic fades like fog in the sun, and you begin to wonder, was that love or just a projection of what I wanted to feel? This is a delicate question, and at the same time, it's absolutely necessary. Because as Carl Jung taught, the soul doesn't seek what is real, but what it needs to integrate. And here's a revelation that might shake you. You feel a deep connection with someone, yet that connection isn't really about the other person. It could be about something inside of you, something that lives within you and has found a way to manifest itself in the world through a face, a voice, a gesture. Jung called this psychic projection. It's when you place your traits, feelings, memories, or needs onto someone else in the hope that they will give you back what you can't give yourself. But how can we distinguish love from projection? Let's start with a simple image. Imagine your soul is like a dark room. You enter it with a flashlight, and everything you shine the light on, you see. Everything you don't shine the light on remains unseen, without you even realizing it. Projection happens when you shine the light on another person, a light that should be directed inward. You see in them the sensitivity you've lost, the courage you've suppressed, the freedom you've given up, the ease you dream of finding again. You don't fall in love with the person. You fall in love with the person you believe they can be for you. Now, take a deep breath, because this can be uncomfortable. What if I told you that the person you've fallen most deeply in love with in your life may never have existed the way you imagine them? You unconsciously created them out of your need to be saved, to be welcomed, to be seen with love. But that person didn't come to give you that. They came to show you what you must first offer to yourself. This doesn't mean that your feelings were wrong, but it means that perhaps they were pointing elsewhere, not for the promise of a happily ever after, but for a lesson you still needed to learn. Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever felt that you loved the idea of a person more than the person themselves? Have you ever had the moment when the other person truly revealed themselves, and everything you had felt began to unravel? If this has ever happened to you, share it here in the comments. No shame, no censorship. Your story might open someone else's eyes who is going through the same thing right now. Carl Jung warned us about the dangers of projection because it blinds us. It turns the other into a mirror, but we insist on believing it's a window. We want to look through it and see the future, but all we see is the past, the wounds, the gaps, the unresolved desires. And that's why many relationships that start with explosions end in ruins. Because it wasn't love, it was a search, it was a lack, it was an echo. Maybe now you remember someone who made you feel all of this, someone who knocked you off your feet and then disappeared. It's someone who promised you the world with their eyes but never offered you presence. These people leave traces within us, and it's completely natural for us to get stuck in that for a while. But the problem is when we hold on to the pain out of fear of facing the truth. The truth is, often the other person didn't harm you. They just didn't live up to the script you wrote without their consent. You wrote that they would be the right one, that they would be different, that this time would last forever. And when that doesn't happen, the world falls apart. But maybe the world truly has to fall apart so that it can rebuild itself again. Here's an honest question. How often have you sabotaged yourself in the name of a feeling you didn't even know was mutual? How many times have you stayed silent, kept to yourself, turned away from your own needs just to hold on to someone who only existed in the realm of your idealization? This is common, it's human, but it's also a call for awareness. Jung said, "Find yourself, and you will find others more clearly." But there's an even subtler, perhaps more painful point. Not every projection is conscious. Sometimes you truly believe that you love. You believe that this person is the love of your life. You think you're experiencing something unique, specific, mystical, and maybe you are. But the question is, does this love strengthen you or weaken you? Does it bring you closer to yourself, or does it distance you? Because true love, even if intense, should not throw you off center. It should bring you back to yourself. Maybe you're living this way right now, feeling overwhelmed and trying to understand a feeling that no longer fits in your chest. If that's the case, leave a comment here. What have you been searching for most in your relationships? Presence, security, devotion, respect. If you can write that down, you'll see yourself more honestly. And maybe it will help you recognize what you've yet to offer yourself. Jung spoke about the concept of individuation, the process of becoming who you really are. And according to him, relationships are the greatest laboratory for this transformation. We're not just together out of love. We're here to reveal parts of ourselves to heal, integrate, and evolve. This happens, however, only when love is conscious. It's not about waiting to be saved. It's about loving with both feet on the ground, an open heart, and an awakened soul. And here's a teaser. Could it be that the love of your life was actually the most powerful mirror of your own absence? Could it be that the person you idealized didn't come just to remind you of love, but to remind you to return to yourself? Think about that. Because sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is the pain that wakes you up. And now, breathe quietly. Remember, you are not fragile because you love too much. You are strong because you are here, trying to understand. And this is the first step in transforming what you've experienced into consciousness. From here, everything can change. But to achieve this, you must dedicate yourself to a new question. The next time I feel this overwhelming connection, will I be whole enough to receive it? Or will I still be projecting the part of me I constantly avoid? If you've made it this far, I want to thank you. You belong to the few who choose to feel, reflect, and grow. And I want to hear from you. What has touched you most in this reflection? Have you ever experienced a connection that made you doubt whether it was love or just a projection? Tell us in the comments below. Not for engagement, but because sometimes your story is the mirror others need to see themselves. What if I told you there are connections that exist solely to teach us to let go? Let's understand why some souls meet with a purpose to part ways, and how distancing can be the greatest act of love we are ever called to. She entered the cafe, her hair still damp from the rain. He sat as usual at the same table, ordering the same coffee, no sugar, too hot. and opened the book he always pretended to read. But that day she couldn't concentrate because the night before, something had ended. A cycle, a love, a silent pact that until then she had believed would last forever. There was no fight, no betrayal, no dramatic tears. There was only a tired look and a sentence, spoken without pain. I think our path has split. And there, in that brief pause between the end and the silence, she understood. Some loves come only to teach us how to let go. It seems unfair, doesn't it? When we finally find someone who understands us, who resonates on the same frequency, who truly sees us from the inside out, life asks us to let go, as if the universe itself whispered, "This meeting was real, but not forever." But why does this happen? Why can two souls, even when they touch so intensely, so sincerely, so inexplicably, sometimes just not go any further? The answer isn't out there, it's in here. It lies in the nature of the soul and in what Jung called individuation, the inevitable process of the human journey toward the self. Carl Jung believed that every soul seeks a state of wholeness, and to reach that, it must go through encounters that activate dormant parts of itself. Not all encounters are meant to last, but all are meant to reveal something, show their strength, your shadow, your dependencies, or your ability to love without losing yourself. Have you ever experienced such a love? The one that passes through you like a comet, illuminating everything, transforming you, and then leaves behind a crater of silence where once there was a promise? Maybe this has happened to you before, or maybe it's happening right now, and perhaps you're asking yourself, if it was so real, why didn't it last? But what if the question is different? What if it's not about staying, but about what awakened in you during the encounter? Let's look at a set of data that may seem too statistical at first glance, but carries a painful and liberating human truth. According to the Berkeley Institute for Interpersonal Psychology, more than 70% of people say that the relationships that changed them the most were also the shortest, brief, yet profound in their impact. What does that tell us? The value of a connection isn't in how long it lasts, but in how it touches the soul. Have you ever heard of the Japanese concept of kintsugi? It's the art of repairing broken ceramics with gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, they are highlighted, because for them, the scars increase the value of the object, not the opposite. Some loves are like that. They don't stay, but they have split us in such deep, sacred ways that, when we rebuild ourselves, we are more beautiful than before. There's an excerpt from a letter Jung wrote to a patient that left a deep impression on me. He said, "There is no healing without pain, and there is no evolution without loss. Every soul that comes into your life carries a scalpel. Either you cut away your ignorance or open your consciousness. That is the truth that few have the courage to hear. Some souls come to save us from ourselves, but they don't stay to hold our hand forever. They come, fulfill their mission, and move on. And you can let go, even if everything in you wants to hold on." There's a 62-year-old woman who wrote to our channel a few months ago. Her name is Marlene. She said, "I lived with a man for 30 years. I never felt seen. I was never heard. Then one day I met a stranger in the waiting room of a hospital. During our 20-minute conversation, he saw parts of me that no one had noticed before. I never saw him again. But after that meeting, I had the courage to get divorced. It wasn't physical love. It was a calling. Can you understand the power of that? Not every soul that changes your life needs to be a permanent part of your routine. Sometimes it simply needs to wake you up. But why do we insist so much on holding on to something that has already fulfilled its role? Why do so many people stay in relationships that no longer uplift them? Out of fear of a new beginning, fear of not finding something better, fear of losing that spark of meaning that once held everything together. But here's the secret. If it was real, it will never be lost. It will live on in you as a memory, as an impulse, as a milestone. But it doesn't need to remain present to remain sacred. Jung said that the greatest prison is resistance to the natural flow of life. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is simply to let someone go so that they can grow, and you can too. It may seem contradictory, but it is the purest love there is. Love without possession. No control, no contract, just freedom. Have you ever noticed that some souls appear just when you're on the brink of collapse, as if they were sent by something greater, just to make sure you don't completely lose yourself? But after they've helped you rise again, they leave. That's not a task. It's wholeness, mission accomplished. Let me tell you a story you may have never heard before. Carl Jung, already older, confided in a friend that the most memorable love of his life wasn't with his wife, but with a woman he had never had a conventional relationship with. It was a psychological connection, intellectual, spiritual, and, in his opinion, profoundly transformative. She came at a time when he was emotionally exhausted. They spoke about the soul, dreams, and symbols. She disappeared after a few months, and he never saw her again. But Jung said that this brief presence forever changed his view of the human soul. Have you ever experienced something like that? Someone who entered your life for a short time, but left a permanent mark? If so, share it in the comments. Your story might be just what someone needs to read today to find peace. Life doesn't measure love in years, it measures it in transformation. What if someone taught you to love yourself more, with more respect, to listen to yourself, to break free from patterns so that someone else could see it too? True love, even when society says no, even when it didn't last long, even when no one else understands it. Maybe this is your greatest challenge right now. Don't forget who's gone, but be grateful, honor, and let it go with dignity. Because while you're holding on to what you should have already let go of, you're closing the door to what you're meant to achieve. And here's one last thought. Every soul that passes by leaves something behind, but only those that resonate with your growth remain. When the road forks, it may not be the end. It might just be a new beginning. Your story doesn't end when someone leaves. It restarts, stronger, more conscious, more yours. But what happens when you finally stop searching? When you choose yourself and begin to swing in peace? Let's dive into this sacred moment when love stops being a lack and becomes abundance. And what changes when you finally understand this? You are the love that attracts. There comes a time in life when silence begins to hurt less than the absence of yourself. Have you ever been there? At that point where it's less scary to stop searching for someone else than to continue drifting away from yourself? Right at that point, that invisible orientation point, that portal of the soul, everything begins to change. Because contrary to what you've been taught, love doesn't begin with the other. It begins the moment you stop giving yourself up. Jung said that the psyche isn't searching for someone, it's searching for wholeness. As long as we are fragmented, we will continue to attract relationships that only reinforce our breaks. But something magical, almost mysterious, begins to happen when you take a step back. When you leave the race, let go of your fear, silence your projections, and look with brutal honesty at who you were without condemning yourself. Finally, finding your way back to yourself. What changes when you stop searching? All of it. The appearance, the energy, the decisions, the presence. You start vibrating differently, and the universe, which responds not to your words but to your frequency, begins to reorganize the encounters around you. The people who come towards you no longer carry the burden of completing you. They come to share. They come because they align with what you are now, not with the gap you were trying to fill. Imagine an overflowing cup. What happens when it finds another full cup? It doesn't empty itself. They multiply. This is the purest metaphor for conscious love. Two whole souls coming together, not out of necessity, but out of harmony. And yes, that exists. But it can only be experienced when you decide to stop searching for pieces in other people's bodies. How often have you shaped yourself to fit into someone else's love? Have you hidden your intensity, dimmed your shine, silenced your pain, all to try to bind someone to you who actually never saw you? They only saw the reflection of their expectations. But when you stop searching, these compromises no longer make sense. You will understand. It's not worth being half-hearted just to have someone by your side. Your completeness becomes the greatest filter for attracting those who are truly ready to find you. Effective maturity tastes like freedom. And no, it's not selfish freedom. It's serene, mature, quiet freedom from those who already understand. Love doesn't mean losing yourself. It means expanding. And that scares many people, because most people still think love is about merging, when in reality, love allows you to be whole, even next to another whole. Have you ever noticed that the healthiest relationships take their time? They don't demand, they don't suffocate, they don't require proof every second. They have their own rhythm and space to breathe for everyone. Because in this kind of love, absence isn't a threat. It nurtures, and silence doesn't harm. It strengthens. There is no game. There is no manipulation. There is trust, but trust only arises when you're no longer dependent on others to feel valuable. One of the most beautiful things Jung wrote was, "You will not find peace if you try to fit yourself into what others expect of you. You will only find it when you stay true to your own nature." And this truth can be uncomfortable at first, because to be yourself, you will lose some faces, but in return, you will find yourself again. And that changes everything. There's a strange fact that few mention. In a study at Harvard University, where more than 700 people were observed over 80 years, researchers came to a surprising conclusion. The result is that the happiest people were not those who found great love, but those who created connections based on authenticity. The key, it's not about who you meet, it's about who you become. What happens when you stop searching? You begin to create. It's rooted within you. It generates self-love. Boundaries are created, you create peace. And in this peace, the soul finally rests. It stops shouting and starts listening. And when it listens, it makes decisions with care. Stop romanticizing crumbs, losing yourself in promises of confusing intensity and depth. Do you understand what true love is? It's not euphoria, it's harmony. It's the presence that doesn't weigh, the touch that doesn't charge, the conversation that brings you home, even when you're far away. And then the seemingly impossible happens. You attract someone, but not out of lack, for consistency. Your energy has changed, and life, as a reflection of that, presents them to you, those who are truly ready. And to outsiders, this someone might even seem ordinary, but inside, you feel it. It's here, it's now, it's whole. If you've made it this far, you might be living in this moment. Perhaps you're rediscovering yourself, maybe letting go of a connection that hurt, and gradually learning to listen to yourself. Or maybe you're just tired of repeating the same patterns. Wherever you are on your journey, know this. The simple fact that you are seeking awareness already gives you an advantage over the majority. Because those who seek consciousness will, sooner or later, find peace. Now, perhaps it's time to ask yourself, who am I when I'm not trying to please anyone? What really makes me tick? What kind of love do I want from life? The one I am now, not more than I was. Answer this calmly, thoroughly, and truly. If you wish, share it in the comments. Your answer could inspire other souls who are also returning home. You deserve to live a love that doesn't extinguish you, that doesn't make you doubt yourself, that doesn't force you to kneel before emotional crumbs. You deserve love. May it see you, and may you experience it. But it will only stay if it's free. And this love will only appear when you are already whole inside, not perfect, but whole, and fully recognizing what you've already healed and rebuilt. You've had the courage, and perhaps this is the greatest lesson of all we've learned so far. The love you're seeking is not in another. It's who you become when you stop chasing it. When the energies of two souls unite, no force can tear them apart. But this happens only when both are no longer confused by their own wounds. Now that you've come this far, you might be wondering, how can I apply all of this to my life? How can we break out of the cycle of projection, attachment, and emotional turmoil and finally live a more conscious, holistic, and true love? I will give you one thing, a practical, deeper, more sentimental, and strategic plan with clear steps. Align your energy with your essence and thus pave the way for the right connections, not through force, but through vibration. We've come this far, and that already means something. It means you've survived the toughest phases, those requiring emotional courage, those that awaken hidden memories, those that make us face the truth with tear-filled but open eyes. You didn't run away. You felt it. And now you are ready to put all this awareness into practice. Because knowledge alone is not enough. You must live it. And living requires choices, presence, and action. As Carl Jung said, enlightenment is not attained by imagining light figures, but by facing the darkness. Awareness, however, is not just about what is said in all the words, and what you may need to hear now is that becoming aware also means learning how to deal with it. Because seeing alone does not heal. It is necessary to welcome it, digest it, reorganize it, and transform it. Therefore, I would like to offer you something different in this last part. Not just words to reflect upon, but a sentimental and practical strategic plan, an emotional map on which you can apply everything you've learned and actually begin a new cycle. Take a deep breath and read with your heart as you align your energy with your essence and make room for the right love. Step 1. Silence as a portal. Learn to listen to yourself before you try to be understood. You've spent your whole life learning to explain yourself, justifying what you feel, shaping your emotions to please, preserve, and conquer. But how often have you simply stopped to listen to yourself? No rush, no judgment, no expectations. Take 5 minutes every day for the next 7 days to be in silence. Sit with yourself, close your eyes, and simply notice what is currently screaming inside me. Which part of me has been ignored? Try not to respond. Just listen. Silence is the womb in which truths are born. Step 2. The wound map. Find out what attracted you and why. Take a piece of paper and a pen. Write down the 3 most significant relationships in your life: emotional, familial, and friendships. For each, answer: what did this person awaken in me? Which wound did they reactivate? Which part of me did they ignore, and which part did they allow to bloom? Now, read everything carefully. You will see patterns and you will understand more clearly. It was not fate that punished you, it was your soul trying to recognize itself. Step 3. The release ritual. Let go of what has already fulfilled its role. You cannot welcome the new if you continue carrying the ghosts of the old inside you. Choose one of those stories you haven't yet released. Write a letter, say everything that's been left unsaid, all the words that were swallowed, all the unlived feelings. Then burn this letter, tear it up, or bury it. This is not a symbolic gesture. It is an energetic act. Your soul needs to understand that the cycle is over and that it is free to begin anew. Step 4. Shift the focus. From what you need to what you offer. Your whole life you focused on what you wanted to receive. I want someone to see me. I want someone to love me. I want someone who appreciates me. Now change the question. What have I offered? Do you value yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you see yourself? For the next few days, exchange all external pressure for an internal gesture. If you want love, be more loving toward yourself. If you want presence, stop abandoning yourself. If you want depth, stop living in superficiality. Everything begins within. Step 5. The conscious choice. Rewrite the pattern. You already know which kind of relationship has hurt you the most. You already understand the patterns you've repeated. Now, it's time to say no. Make a list of everything you will no longer accept, and beside it, everything you choose to nourish from now on. Example: I no longer accept being ignored. I choose to make relationships your commitment. Cultivate mutual presence. This is not cheap self-help. It is self-commitment. It is an unprogrammed psyche. It is realigned energy. Step 6. Meet your new version. Vibrate before meeting. You want to find someone who is on the same frequency just as your soul desires. So start living today as if that someone were already on their way. How would you behave? How would you speak to yourself? How would you dress, eat, and choose your companions? Life responds to your vibration, and no one comes too early if their energy is still out of sync with the timing. Align with what you want to attract and notice what changes. Step 7. Daily practice. Keep the flame burning. Every transformation requires maintenance. What you felt while watching this video will fade if you're not careful. So choose a simple but meaningful daily practice. It could be writing a line each day about what you felt, or expressing gratitude for something you've learned. It could be meditating for 3 minutes before going to bed. It could be reading one sentence from Jung every day. The crucial thing is not the size of the gesture, but the connection to yourself, the process of return. Perhaps you're thinking now, I want to live all of this, but I don't know how to turn this plan into a routine. That's why I'd like to recommend something with great care and respect. The ebook Jung's LUD Method, 5 minutes daily for inner peace and mental clarity. This material was specifically created for moments like this, when the soul awakens, but the mind still needs direction. There, you will find practical, detailed, and easily accessible guidance inspired by Jung's teachings to support you in this process of reconnection with your essence. It's a daily step, small but powerful, and it's available immediately. The link is pinned in the comments of this video. If you feel that this content speaks to you, then take this step. It's more than an ebook, it's a reminder. You are not alone, And now, before we say goodbye, I want to invite you to something even more important. If you felt this video touched you, if you could recognize your story in every word, if you believe more people need access to this type of content, like the video, subscribe to the Planitude and Reflection channel and share this message. Here, you are part of a community of souls awakening with courage, truth, and compassion. And if you'd like, leave a comment, tell your story, or simply write an anonymous sentence if you wish, because sometimes one sentence can save a soul. We'll see each other in the next video, and until then, don't forget who you are. True love only finds a home when the soul returns home.